everyone, checking in for your astrological update. So I want to start with yesterday, May 4th. That was Sunday. And essentially what I want to talk about there is that Pluto went into retrograde, but this time it'll stay in the sign of Aquarius. We won't go back to Capricorn on this retrograde, so it starts May 4th, ends October 13th. In the sign of Aquarius, this is all about kind of detoxing from social influences, right, and belief systems, maybe the collective hold, which aren't really working for you. It's reimagining what are your belief systems, where do you tear them down, what's your relationship to power and control, and can you embody this cycle of rebirth around these themes? Also yesterday, as this goes into its retrograde, we have Lilith that's sitting in Scorpio, which is squaring off with Pluto. And so Lilith in Scorpio is like an unapologetic, feminine. It can be deep feminine rage. So the square point is maybe, it could be fears, right? Because in the sign of Scorpio, it's related to our psyches. It's related to our fears, our vulnerabilities. So there could be some space that maybe you're feeling like, if I reform my belief system to how I'm going to choose to respond to this injustice or unfairness in the collective, or something that's happened and gone on, then maybe I'm self-abandoning by discontinuing to focus on that piece of my storyline. And really there's an opportunity here to say, I don't have to self-abandon, I don't have to get rid of this storyline, but I can acknowledge that maybe staying anchored to that storyline is keeping me in a stagnant place that is focused on maybe the wrong emotional octaves that I want to focus on, such as maybe rage, jealousy, envy, obsession. So it's all about trying to understand where can you empower yourself more to come out of that and detach from this collective intensity to reshape what you're believing in. The astrology on Monday is going to really lean in to support this as well. We are talking about the sign of Scorpio, and then Pluto, which also rules Scorpio. It's based on our rebirth cycles, our transformation. So this is a really powerful week to look at the astrology leading up to the new moon on Monday, May 12th. And so on Monday, May 5th, Jupiter is sextiling Mercury. So Jupiter's hanging out in the curious sign of Gemini, which is kind of breathing air to this Aries Mercury, right? It's creative thinking. It's a curiosity to try new things, expand your thought processes, right? This is dipping into the intellectual space of the, how do I want to reform this? What do I want to do that's new? What is the infinite place of possibility, right, for me to start to shift directions? What is the new information that maybe I need to take and I need to try on? It feels new, but it's also exciting, and I'm ready to kind of courageously step into that. On Tuesday, we have Venus in Aries that is sextiling Pluto in Aquarius. So this is also lending its hand to a bit of fearless transformation in relationship. It's a bold step towards self-love. We have Mercury in Aries that's also conjunct Chiron in Aries on Tuesday, which is all telling us, how do we heal, right? How do you want to heal? And it's about really talking to yourself, and what is your relationship with yourself? Where's your next step? What's the next truth? How do you want to get there? What thought patterns do you embody to get there? What do you think about on your day-to-day? What types of conversations are you having with people? Are they high octave frequencies? Do they reflect your self-worth? Do they reflect their worth? So these are all things to lean into and understand what needs to transform if it doesn't feel good. If there's not an octave of self-love, self-worth, and self-confidence, right, that are being mirrored in these interactions, are you on the right path? And it's really questioning that. On Wednesday the 7th, Jupiter in Gemini is squaring off with the moon in Virgo. So Jupiter's our place of expansion. The moon is representative of our emotional body. So this is a bit of a tussle between what I would call maybe a whimsical freedom versus clinging to emotional safety. Virgo is extremely organized. It wants to know the next steps. It wants practicality. It wants to take the data and analyze it, where Jupiter and Gemini is like, let's just try this on and see what works, right? See what you're vibing with, see what you're into. So there can be this little tug of war between perfectionism and the ideas of possibility here. On Thursday, the Venus Aries is opposing the moon in Libra. So this is related to the octaves of the self versus the other, right? Venus in Aries wants us to understand our self-worth. It wants us to know what we're bringing to the table, whereas the moon in Libra might be concerned with, well, what will they think if I say this? What will they think if I want this? Will this work for them? But that Venus in Aries is really asking for you to stay true and stay in your authenticity, right? There's a path through here. To find balance and to find harmony. But if either the self or the relationship with the other is wildly out of balance, then neither person is really going to be happy with the dynamic in the end. And so on Friday, we have the moon in Libra that is doing a pretty sweet dance with Jupiter and Gemini. So these are both air signs. The Venusian sign of Libra really wants to create beauty, harmony, fairness, peace, right? So this is about understanding what sits in my emotional body that offers me those things. How do I create a beautiful space around me? What do other people see as harmony and beautiful, right? But it's also, right, this Pluto in retrograde is saying, don't get so caught up in the collective space of injustice. I think that there's a lot of social dynamics that are going on right now, and it's super easy to do that. While you might have to recognize that the moon is related to your own internal being of fairness and beauty, and what emotionally fulfills you. And so on Saturday, May 10th, Mercury is moving into the sign of Taurus, another Venusian-ruled sign. It's all about the senses and what's tangible in the 3D. So this is really about using your voice as a sacred tool. Here is what I value. Here is what I stand for. This is my foundation and what I believe in. And I need these things around me in order to support that. And unfortunately, I can't accept anything less. That is really what that is saying. It's a sensual mindfulness, right, of understanding what types of communication, what types of connections, what types of communication and connection information am I keeping around me? Am I feeding myself? Does that feel good? That's what I mean by sensual mindfulness, right? When you have experiences, check in with your body. What are in your emotional body? Check in with your vitals, right? Did you notice that you had an interaction and that really either sank your heart heavy or maybe made your heart race or your stomach hurt? All of these things in your body are really going to tell you and communicate to you with what is going to work with you and for you. This is a really nice time to manifest in the tangible 3D world through thought, through earth ritual, right? So start thinking about, where am I taking practical steps towards what I want? And it's really value-driven communication. It's, I know my values and here's the interactions that I want to have. But on the flip side of the Taurus octaves, Are you getting stuck in a space of complacency, or maybe you're asking for something that might be unhealthy? There's also this sense of creating a little bit of peace here too, right? And understanding we won't see eye to eye, so can I peacefully agree to disagree with this person? And then on Sunday, we have the moon in Scorpio that is squaring off with Mars in Leo. And so this is really important as we move forward to the full moon in Scorpio. And I'm going to have another video on that, kind of talking about that as I talk about a little bit of the themes that my workshop on Sunday will entail. But this square leading up to this is all about emotional courage versus trying to maintain emotional control and conceal emotional vulnerability. It's taking raw emotions, right? Those octaves of rage, fear, betrayal, the things that are just seated deep into your psyche and your subconscious, and it's turning them into a creative fire. It's working with your shadow through what is coming up on your inner desire. And those strong emotional patterns are going to tell you what needs to be looked at. Use that inner desire and those emotional triggers that come up as kind of a compass for this shadow work and to know where to go, right? Let that light and use that as a lantern to see the corners that you might need to start cleaning out, essentially. And it's basically like emotional attachments here are kind of battlegrounds for growth, right? The deep, powerful sign of Scorpio is battling it out with the god of war sitting in the lion. So it's acknowledging the shadow work that you have to do and want to do without shame. Yeah, so that's what's going on this week. Another video coming for the Scorpio full moon, and I'll discuss what we are doing in my workshop on Sunday. I think it's gonna be really special, very deep work that I hope to offer.